Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening from Connecticut. My name is Jeremiah Quinlan. I'm the Dean of Undergraduate Admissions and Financial Aid at Yale, and it is my pleasure to welcome you into my home here in early April and congratulate all of you once again on your admission to Yale. I know we're joined tonight hopefully by students and parents, and I wanted to thank everyone for joining me this evening. I know that these are extraordinary times, but we are hoping to convey as much as possible the amazing things about Yale that we are that we live with, all the things about Yale that we love, and we are doing so throughout the month of April. And I typically love meeting admitted students and parents in April. I think it's one of my favorite parts of the job. As I mentioned in the video teaser for this night's event, we spend months reading and discussing and evaluating applicants, and then we are able to admit a little over 2,000 of them, and then the opportunity to get to know them better and to meet them over the course of a few months is really a delight. In the absence of being able to do that in person and during Bulldog Days, we are hoping to do that with events like this. The good news is for all of you is that I have never done this before, and typically you will not, at Bulldog Days, it's like a 5-minute interaction. I say hi, I welcome you to campus, I ask where you're from, I introduce you to your admissions officer, who you've probably all gotten emails from at this point. But this actually can be a slightly more candid conversation. It's 9 o'clock at night. It's the end of a long day. I'm sure all of you are, being busy with school and taking care of family and keeping in touch with friends. And so I hope that this has a slightly more informal and relaxed tone. I'm really looking forward to answering all your questions. We've received several good questions on the way to tonight, but I also hope to take some live questions at the end of the session. The one thing I really want to emphasize to anyone who is joining this conversation and who is still undecided about their offer of admission is please do not leave any questions unanswered. I have an incredible team of admissions officers and student workers at my back, ready to answer all of your questions, ready to talk to you about the decisions that you have to make, ready to try to introduce you to the wonderful aspects of Yale, even if we're not together in New Haven. So I really want to make sure that as you're making this decision over the next few weeks, please don't hesitate to reach out. My email address is jeremiah.quinlan@yale.edu. You can write to me and I will make sure you get your question answered by the right person. You received an email last week from your admissions officer, the person who shepherded your application through the admissions committee that I chaired, which we will talk about. We'll talk about the mechanics of the committee in a little bit. You got an email from that person. Please do not hesitate to email that person if you have any questions. We are here. We are so excited to welcome you to Yale. And even if it can't be done in person, we are super stoked to be offering you these 30 days of programming. My colleagues, Ann Fadiman and Akila Mar and Sandy Cheng, the Dean of Science on Monday, all have said they've gotten incredible receptions for their events. And tomorrow, actually, one of our most popular faculty members, Lori Santos, is giving a class to all of you. She is famous for her Psychology of Happiness course, which is the largest course ever taught at Yale, setting the record last year. Professor Santos is an amazing lecturer and an amazing person, and I cannot encourage you enough to attend her session tomorrow night. So anyway, before I take your questions, I thought it would be good to give a little bit of my background. I know people have asked how I got into admissions, how this all worked. So I thought I would start with sort of my Yale story and go from there. After that, I'm taking your questions, both live and the ones that you have sent. I went to Yale. I went to a public high school in Westchester County, New York, Hastings High School. It's a very small school. I had 88 kids in my graduating public high school class. Commuter town to New York City. My father worked as a family lawyer in Bronx Family Court primarily. My mother was a nurse at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital in New York City for 40 years. I consider myself somewhat of a New Yorker, although I do not live in the city. I am a diehard New York Mets fan, a long-suffering New York Mets fan as well. So if there are any other Mets fans out there, I know you're probably missing watching those Mets as much as I am. Anyway, I applied to Yale and really felt like it was the best fit for me, both from academic, distance, from home. Also, I had known people who had gone there previously, and they were people I really respected. And I, at the time, was really interested in politics. So I thought Yale would be a great fit. I was the only person from my high school to go to Yale, the only person from my high school actually to go to an Ivy League school when I graduated. And I had a tremendous experience at Yale over the course of 4 years. I was in Morse College. And my freshman year lived in Welch Hall on Old Campus. My freshman year roommate was actually a gentleman named Ben Silverman, who is the founder and CEO of Pinterest. So if any of you have used Pinterest recently, the person behind all of that was my first year roommate. And I ended up really actually over my academic career falling in love with the study of history. I took a class with a professor in my sophomore year on colonial American history and just fell in love with the study of history, the craft of studying history and working with historical sources and writing papers and studying different periods in history closely. I actually did my senior history capstone, year-long senior history capstone with the same professor who taught me my sophomore year in a lecture course, my junior year in a history seminar, and then my senior year, he and I worked one-on-one for the entire year on an amazing history capstone. I actually then ended up doing research for him as a research assistant after I graduated from Yale. And one of my fondest possessions is the book that he published with me in the acknowledgments for all the work that I did for him on that book. I also, at the time, was in a program called the Teacher Preparation Program, which is the forerunner for the current Education Studies program. I was very interested in education, and for a good part of my Yale career, I thought I was actually going to be a history teacher in the state of Connecticut, teaching high school history. I was a tour guide working for the admissions office. I was involved in the Morse College Council, and I also played my trumpet extensively, both for the Yale Concert Band and the Yale Precision Marching Band. I had played trumpet throughout high school, felt like I wanted to give the trumpet playing a break when I got to college, but the music scene at Yale was not to be denied. The energy, the excitement around music at Yale sucked me right in. Before I knew it, I was in 2 ensembles. I ended up being the drum major of the Yale Precision Marching Band, which is very unlike a typical high school marching band. It's neither precise, nor do we do much marching, but it was really a lot of fun. And I got to spend a lot of my time going to Yale athletics events and supporting Yale and playing my trumpet. I went on 2 world tours with the Yale Concert Band, one after my sophomore year to Salzburg, Vienna, and Prague, and after my senior year to Helsinki, Estonia, and St. Petersburg, Russia. Summer before my senior year, however, I took a job in the admissions office interviewing prospective students. And that is where my career trajectory changed. I loved talking to students about the college admissions process, talking to parents about the process, thinking about their decision-making. I loved the vibe of the office. And so after I graduated, I actually took a job in the admissions office. I graduated in 2003 and started working in the fall of 2003 in admissions. I stayed there for 5 years. I was the director of recruitment for 3 of those years, which means I ran Bulldog Days and all the yield activities that you're participating in right now. 15, 17 years ago, I was in charge of. And I had a really, really great experience in the office over the course of those 5 years. I left, however, to get my MBA at Northwestern's Kellogg School of Management in the fall of 2008. And then ended up graduating from Northwestern in 2010 with a degree in marketing, nonprofit management, and finance from Kellogg. Being at business school between 2008 and 2010 was a very interesting time to be studying business because of the financial downturn. And I actually think about that time a bit now, obviously, and connected to the current realities that we're all living through at the moment. I loved business. I felt energized about the opportunity to go into business, and I had a brief career, basically a summer internship doing brand management for Kraft Foods. I worked on the Maxwell House coffee brand, good to the last drop, and was going to start working in brand management full-time after I graduated from business school. But actually decided at the last minute to return to Yale and became the Deputy Dean of Undergraduate Admissions in 2010, and then almost immediately after became the inaugural Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid at Yale NUS College in Singapore. So from 2011 to 2013, I was the Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid for a liberal arts college in Singapore that I hope you have heard of. I was the second employee in the college's history and spent a lot of time in Singapore building the admissions philosophy, process, operations, and team, both admissions and financial aid team for the new college. And I was responsible for admitting and matriculating the first class of students over in Singapore. Incredibly amazing experience. Truly one of the most entrepreneurial things being done in higher education is creating a fully residential liberal arts college in Singapore with whole person admissions. And I had an amazing experience doing that. But came back in 2013 to take over full-time as the Dean of Admissions, full-time back in Connecticut as the Dean of Admissions at Yale. Once in a lifetime opportunity to come back in this role as the Dean of Admissions. So even though it was hard to leave Singapore right before the campus opened, I felt like this was an opportunity that was too good to pass up. And have been the Dean of Admissions for 7 years. You are my 7th admitted class. Which is great. I also then 2 years ago added financial aid in my portfolio and have since really taken off doing both admissions and financial aid. I love my job. It is not an easy job. You can imagine being the Dean of Admissions when we have 36,000 applications to review is not the easiest thing to do in the world. But I love my job because of the attention that we spend on each application and on each student, and the real neat opportunity we get as to be the kind of the connection point between secondary ed and higher ed in this country. At being in admissions, you spend a lot of time in high schools. You spend a lot of time reading about high school students' experience. You spend a lot of time understanding the different curricula in high schools, the different opportunities in high schools. You see the disparate nature of secondary education in this country and in the world in front of you, but you also see a incredible lens into higher ed. And so you could work in secondary ed, you could work in higher ed, or you could work in admissions and really be at the nexus point of those two education spaces. And I love having to know enough about secondary ed and enough about higher ed to be fully operating professional. The last thing I'll say, and then I'll start taking your questions, is that it is a great job because it's so cyclical and every month in admissions feels different. Right? So in September and October, we're visiting schools, we're doing information sessions, we're talking to prospective students and parents. In November and December, we're in early action committee reviewing applications. We are spending a lot of time reading files, and then we're spending a lot of time in committee, which I'll describe about in a second. And then you are reading files again, and then in committee again, and then it's recruitment season, and then it's travel season. So there's just a really great sense of every month feeling completely different, and that has a real nice energy. And that's the nature of being in a part of an academic calendar and a part of an academic institution, that there's this sort of annual renewal cycle that makes you feel really good about doing something different each month and makes you feel really energized about your job as you move forward. So that's a little bit about my background. I think if you saw my intro video, you know that I have a wonderful, beautiful wife, Yale College 2004, Jenny Coet, and I have 2 young children, Hannah, age 4, and Zoe, 9 months, who are both sleeping. So unfortunately, you will not necessarily get to see their cute little faces. But if you do want to get a little bit more cuteness, you can certainly watch the video again that they helped me to promote this evening's event. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your questions. The first question that came in was, I'm really interested in what the process is like when you're reviewing a student's application. Could you walk us through what happens to an application from the moment it's picked up to the moment a decision is made? Yes, I could talk for 45 minutes about this process. I'll try to do it in about 5. Essentially, every application to Yale College, all 36,000 applications are read in total. Each application is read in its entirety by an admissions officer. We have 25 different admissions officers reading files, and we divide up the world into different geographic portfolios. So some person's geographic portfolio might be reading all of the applications from Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Massachusetts. And this person is responsible for reading those files. They will read the entire file cover to cover, and rate it, rate different aspects of the application file. And if they deem it to be competitive, they will then send it off to be read by a second person. The first question any reader will ask when they open an application file is this file academically competitive? Do the standardized test scores and grades indicate to us that they could come to Yale and be a successful student? We offer an incredible educational experience, but it's also a rigorous one at Yale. And we want to make sure that students are indeed prepared through the metrics that we have to do the work that they want to do. So that's the first question. We look at the transcript. We look at the entire transcript. We don't look at the GPA the school sends us. We look at all the classes you have taken, all the grades you have in those classes. We're looking for trends. We're looking for courses that are taken. We're looking for the entire shape of the transcript. And then we also look at testing. Then, if the file is sort of said to be academically competitive, then the person is reading all the other parts of the file in the lens of, is this someone who's going to contribute a lot to Yale's community and make the most of Yale's resources? And that's when we look at the extracurricular activities, the job experiences, the essays, the letters of recommendation, both from teachers and counselors, the interview report. All those things are reviewed. The person will write notes on the application file. And then after they're done rating and reading and write the notes for the file, if they deem that file to be competitive, they will then send it off to be read by a second person. The second read is a little bit shorter in terms of notes, but they also will rate the file. After the file has been read by a second person, it is sent back to that portfolio officer, the person who is responsible for each of those geographic areas. And that person then is getting ready to prepare for committee. And if they are the area officer for the state of Michigan, and there are 400 applications from the state of Michigan, they will have read all 400 applications, and a certain number, let's say 150, 200, will have been read twice. Of the files that have been read twice, the area officer determines which of those is the strongest and should be presented to the admissions committee. So then we get to the admissions committee process. The admissions committee at Yale is 5 folks. It is a committee chair who's a senior admissions officer, another senior admissions officer, the area manager, a member of the Yale faculty, and a dean in Yale College or one of the residential colleges. Those people come together for an entire day or an entire set of days, and they look at all the applications from a specific set of geographic territories. So let's go back to the Michigan example. They might spend the entire day reviewing the applications from Michigan. They have access to all 400 applications, but it's the area manager, that person who is responsible for saying, okay, of the 400 applications and of the 200 that were read twice, these are the strongest 50 files. And that person will present those files one by one to the admissions committee. We sit in a room. We have a screen, we sit together, we eat snacks, we eat good food, we talk, and then we actually can, after we've presented the file, project different aspects of the application file to onto a screen to be evaluated. So the file is presented, documents in the file are reviewed if necessary, and then the committee will actually vote on that application's admission. And if you receive 5 admit votes or 4 admit votes, you are admitted to the class. And if you receive fewer admit votes than that, you are either put on the wait list or denied. So it is a very time-intensive process. This should also make you feel really good that by the time you get into Yale, 2 people have read your file in its entirety, and another 5 have deliberated over different aspects of the file as they're coming to a decision. This is an incredibly time-intensive process, and if you could see my waistline, you could see the havoc that it wreaks on my waistline every year as we sit in this room and review file and file and file for weeks at a time. That being said, it is actually an incredibly enjoyable and thoughtful experience. Thanks for the question. Next question. What Yale supplement essay is the most important or is your personal favorite? This is a great question. I'd have to say the short takes. I love those short answer questions. I have heard from students that they spend as much time on those short takes as they do the other essays, which is not really the point. We created the short takes so that we could have sort of this very fresh, unfiltered approach to the application for folks. But I love them because they force students to be creative. They force students to think outside of the box. And as a set of short answers, who you would invite to a college tea, what type of roommate you would be, what Yale course you would teach. We actually get a good sense of who a student is, and I always love looking at those short takes. In fact, I love every year reading out some of my favorite short takes. And I think if this evening is a success, I will be hopefully joining you in a screen near the end of the month, maybe live, maybe not, reading out some of my favorite application short takes for all of your enjoyment as a really fun exercise, because it is truly remarkable to share some of the incredible responses from folks. Hillary asks, I would like to introduce myself to the admissions officer, but I don't know what to say. I don't want to start off with, hey, did you like my app? But I would feel weird asking personal questions. That's a great question, Hillary. Look, I think you can be assured that your admissions officer likes your application. If you were admitted, this admissions officer both read your application first, they looked at the second reader's comments, and they decided to shepherd you through a 5-person admissions committee. So by the time the student is admitted, they know your file front and back. They are very invested in your success and very invested in you finding out all you can about Yale before making a college decision, and frankly, hopefully coming to Yale. So I think you should just reach out to them and say, hey, I really appreciate that you read my application file. I really appreciate that I'm admitted to Yale. I'd love to connect more over the next month, and you should go ahead and just ask questions. And use the Admitted Student Network. If any of you are on the Admitted Student Network, we are, all the admissions officers are reporting great interactions there, and it seems like a really great way to stay in touch with your admissions officer. And I think you can just sort of say, thanks for everything, and then launch right into the questions. Don't worry, we are not that formal of a bunch. I hope I'm conveying some of that to you tonight, but we're not that formal of a bunch. We would love to hear from you, and they would love to hear from you. Next question. I want to know what you personally think what makes Yale the best place for students to spend their undergraduate career. Also, can you please ask your daughter to create some more artwork for us? I could definitely ask my daughter to create some more artwork for us. In fact, in this room, if I was to be so bold, I could show you some of her artwork, but I'll spare us for now. Over the last few weeks, she has produced an unbelievable amount of high quality artwork. My wife was actually an art history major at Yale. She worked at the Yale Center for British Art for several years, which is an incredible museum and houses the largest collection of British art anywhere outside of the United Kingdom. Yale, by the way, has the largest collection of free art outside of Washington, D.C., anywhere else in the country. Basically, after the Smithsonian, there is no other larger free resource of art than we will find in New Haven and with Yale's art galleries. But my daughter has been doing a lot of really great art over the last few weeks, so we will have plenty to spare. And if you come to Yale in the fall, I'm sure I'll have lots in my office. So you can come pick some up. The other part of the question, sorry, I got a little distracted by the art. What makes Yale the best place for an undergraduate education? I could talk to you for a half hour about this, but I will simply say that I think it's the combination of big and small, and how that works itself through every single part of what Yale is. The combination of research university and dedicated undergraduate community, the fact that Yale is one of the leading research universities in the world, but we truly, at the heart of everything we do, have an undergraduate experience and an undergraduate career that really is meaningful. We have undergraduates that are, at more than half the size of the entire university. And I definitely feel like the big and small works with New Haven. The city of New Haven is a wonderful college town, but also a large not a large, but a medium-sized city that provides you with an incredible amount of diversity and lots of dining options and lots of nightlife and lots of cultural institutions like the museum, as I just discussed, but it still feels like a walking college town. And then the residential colleges. The residential colleges that hopefully you know about if you've been admitted to Yale, break down the larger student body into these 14 groups that I think really make Yale an intimate and amazing place. Instead of having to know 1,550 first-year students your first few weeks, you get to know the 150 students in your residential college. And there's lots of pride around the colleges, and you can eat in the dining hall of your college. Obviously, you can eat in any of the dining halls, but you eat in your first year dining. There's just so much around the intimacy of the college experience. I think it really breaks up the larger Yale community, which is impressive and huge and necessary, especially at times like this, but it breaks it down into sort of more intimate connections for students and faculty and professors and staff, and I think that's really remarkable. Speaking of that, Olivia, thanks for the question, Olivia, asks, when do first years get to meet with academic advisors, counselors to discuss course selection? That's a great question. Typically that happens during the orientation process before the first day of classes. So first years are expected to be on campus a specific Friday in late August. and then classes start the following Wednesday. So there are 5 days of orientation, jam-packed schedule. There is some orientation that's done online over the summer, but then there is this in-person 5-day orientation. And during one of those days, I think usually day 2 or 3, you actually meet with your specific academic advisor. And you also will get to meet with your residential college dean. The dean, of course, is the faculty member who lives in your college and is sort of your nuts and bolts academic advisor for 4 years. All right, next question. Do you have any advice for students who may be dealing with imposter syndrome after being accepted? It's a really good question. Imposter syndrome is real. I think every student who comes to Yale feels a little bit of an imposter, no matter your background. If you're their first in their family to go to college, if you're the only person in your high school who's ever gone to Yale, or if you have a family member who went to Yale, or if you have someone who, if you know 3 other people from your high school class, there is something about the transition from high school, where all of you were at the top of your class, high achieving students, to the larger pool of what Yale has to offer, that is intimidating and is challenging. And Yale is transitioning to Yale is challenging for everyone. But I understand that that imposter syndrome might be acute or more acute for some students. And what I would tell you is that we are incredibly thoughtful and careful in the work that we do. I just described to you a few minutes ago this incredibly detailed, weeks-long, months-long selection process to decide who is actually going to come to Yale. And your application has been reviewed by multiple people. Your essays and your interview report or your transcript have been flashed on the screen and discussed by 5 different people. This is to show you that this was not an error, right? We are not perfect. The admissions committee is not, I'm not going to sit here and say we don't make mistakes, right? I'm not trying to say we're not infallible, but we are not making errors. No one is admitted because we misplaced a file, or because someone was asleep at the wheel, or someone had one specific personal preference. They loved this short take about Agatha Christie novels, and so they were definitely going to push for this person. That is not how someone gets into Yale. Someone gets into Yale because we see both your academic and personal record and your your sustained success over the course of your high school career, in whatever way you want to define success, is going to make you an incredible contributor to this campus community. I think if you were coming to campus and could come to Bulldog Days and meet the incredible Yale students and see how friendly everyone is and see how relatively down to earth Yaleys tend to be despite their high achieving nature, I think you would feel better about this. So for now, just know that this was not an error. You were admitted because we really believe in you, and we understand over the course of the last several decades that students with your profile are incredibly successful at an institution like Yale. And we are making this decision based on rigor and careful review of your file. I hope that was helpful, because I know that's a really important question and something that a lot of students are dealing with. Sai asks, could you talk more about the research opportunities available at Yale? Yeah, there is no end of research opportunities available at Yale across every discipline. One of the other things I love about Yale is that we have incredible strengths across the curricula. We have incredible strengths in the sciences and engineering and social science and math and humanities and in the arts. And we're actually one of the few large research universities that graduate students in about equal proportion. A third of our students graduate with a STEM degree. A third of our students graduate with a degree in social sciences, and about a third graduate with a degree in the humanities and the arts. And I think that type of diversity, by the way, that intellectual diversity, is one of the amazing things about Yale, because you are surrounded by so many different people with so many different interests. You can be a mechanical engineer who's really interested in journalism, or someone who wants to study poetry but really wants to take top-level political science courses. And Yale's not a place where you're going to have to make trade-offs. This is not a place where you're going to have to go and decide, okay, I'm studying computer science and that's the only thing I can study, and I'm going to have to make trade-offs on the quality of all the different parts of my education. No, you can come to Yale and study computer science and major in one of our interdisciplinary computer sciences, CS in psychology, CS in the arts, CS in economics. You can major in multiple things. You can take great English courses, great creative writing courses, great music courses. You don't have to make that trade-off. And then, that then leads itself to sort of research opportunities. There's just an unbelievable amount of research opportunities. All of our faculty are doing research and love having undergraduates in their labs. Many students can get research fellowships, apply for research fellowships as early as the summer of their first year. We have several hundred students who do science research fellowships in New Haven the summer between their first and second year. We have research internships that get funded by the dean's office during the academic year. You can do research at the medical school, you can do research at the law school, you can do research at the school for the environment, you can do research at the school for public health, which of course is desperately needed at the moment. You can do research in the city of New Haven. There is no end to research opportunities and funding. I think the number was last year, sort of Yale students received over $4 million in funding for undergraduate research, and something like 80% of undergraduates do some sort of research opportunity by the time they graduate, whether it's in the sciences and the arts and the humanities or in the social sciences. Tori asks, how can we meet Handsome Dan? Great question. Handsome Dan is, this is a relatively new Handsome Dan. He's about 4 or 5 years old. The best way to meet Handsome Dan, I'm sure at first year move-in day, he is going to be strutting around both campus, and if you're in TD, Silliman, Franklin, or Murray, he's going to be strutting around those colleges with pride. There's someone in the athletics department who actually is the caretaker for Handsome Dan. So Handsome Dan basically lives on campus and comes to every big event, most of the sporting events. We also have Bula, which is my daughter is slightly more partial towards. Bula is the live person mascot. So you at athletics events can see Handsome Dan or see the more typical mascot Bula, named after the famous Yale song Bula Bula, which was written at some point in the 19th century. But Bula is very friendly and kids love Bula, although Handsome Dan is tough to compete with. What would you say is the biggest change that Yale has experienced since the time you were an undergraduate? Great question. I think two things, one serious and one sort of serious. First is the population of students who attend Yale. It's just much different now than it was when I was an undergraduate. And I only graduated 17 years ago. First off, when I was a student, only 3% of the student body was international. Now that's like 10 or 11%. Students were mostly from the East Coast. Now we have a truly diverse student body from all over the country. California actually competes with New York for the state that sends the most students to Yale every year in the first year class. I think people are surprised when they find out that California, of course, it's such a huge state, but we have hundreds of students every year coming from California to New Haven. And it's just a very diverse, we have more students applying from high schools, different high schools than ever before, and we're admitting students from such a diverse set of high schools. I think when I was a Yale student, Yale students came from sort of 700, my class was from like 700 different high schools. Last year we had a Yale class from 1,100 different high schools. So think about that. So many students who are coming from so many different places and different backgrounds coming to Yale. It's an incredibly exciting place. The other thing that I would say is the food. I will be honest, when I was at Yale in 2003, the food was hit or miss. And Yale was working with a contractor on the food. The food has since about 10 years ago was brought in-house and is truly remarkable. It is hard to convey how delicious Yale Dining Hall food is. The brick oven pizzas, the incredible salads, the amazing made-to-order entrees and the different stations. I mean, it is truly a remarkable experience. It is so different. Every time I go into a Yale Dining Hall, which is frequently to meet with some of my student advisees, they have to sit there and listen to me talk on and on about how amazing the food is. It is such a changed place, and I will challenge anyone to find better food on any college campus in the country than what you get in Yale's residential colleges. So I hope you come next year and we can share a meal over the delicious food. Lucas asks, how do scholarships work with financial aid? Great, happy to talk about financial aid. That's obviously another part of my portfolio. I don't know what type of scholarship you're talking about, but if you are talking about an outside merit scholarship that you receive, that will actually reduce the student share portion of your aid award. So when we package students, we do not package with any loans, but we do package with a parent share, a student share, and then Yale grant. So the parent share is what we calculate a student's parent or parents could contribute to their education. There is a set amount of expectation that a student is going to contribute to their education, whether it's through work in the summers or through the academic year. There are lots of jobs on campus, and minimum wage is incredible on campus. We usually anticipate that the student share would require a student to work about 5 to 7 hours a week throughout the academic year to make enough money to basically purchase their books and pizza and do their laundry. And then but if you do get an outside merit scholarship, that will go to reduce that student share. So you will receive additional funds for those personal expenses. The remainder of your aid award, after we calculate the parent share and the student share, is the Yale grant, which is money that Yale is going to give you this year and in the future to finance your Yale education. Last year, the university gave, I think, $185 million in Yale grant to undergraduates. The average Yale grant for a student on aid is close to $50,000 a year. Merit scholarships that you might be receiving that go beyond that are not necessarily considered in reducing the needs analysis in any way. So we will then reduce the Yale grant. But your scholarship that you get, you should definitely let us know, because that will definitely help you finance your education over the next 4 years. How long do financial aid reviews typically take, and when might we expect to hear back about our financial aid status? That's a great question. I would say right now, given that we just released decisions, I know that my colleagues in financial aid are working incredibly hard. In fact, I sat in on a financial aid committee over Zoom today for 90 minutes, and we were doing tons of reviews together. The financial aid committee is meeting every weekday to try and review the requests that have come in, and and then if necessary, revise awards. We are expecting the turnaround time to be within the week. Usually sort of 3 to 4 business days. So you will hopefully be hearing back soon. If you are interested in the status of your review, you should email the financial aid office or set up a Zoom appointment. In this new world, our officers are available every weekday for Zoom appointments, and we are doing like 20 Zoom appointments a day with students and families. My officers have really enjoyed them, and you can go to finaid.yale.edu and then go to the Contact Us link and set up a Zoom appointment. And then that will be a great way for you to ask questions about your aid award. If you receive your review and still want to ask further questions, please talk to us. We recognize that this is a significant investment for students and families, and we want to be as open as possible to new information and to discussion. Financial aid packaging is a little bit more of a science than the admissions process I just described, but there's definitely a whole person review aspect of it as well, trying to understand the student and family situation. And if you feel like we're missing any information, please send it to us. Another question: will we get an acceptance packet? I hope so. We are working hard to get you guys a special delivery before the end of April. It may not be the acceptance packet because all that is replicated online, but we have some other goodies for you that we are working hard on. If you have not gone onto our website and requested a t-shirt size, please do that. We hope in the next few weeks, although we cannot guarantee at this point, that we will be able to mail you your Yale Class of 2024 t-shirt. The acceptance packets may have to wait a little bit longer, but we will definitely be committed to sending you a thick acceptance packet as soon as we can, and maybe after May 1st. So I hope it doesn't impact your decision to reply, but we will be definitely mailing that out at some point this summer. I hope that's a good answer. Madeline asks, I'm still a bit confused about housing at Yale and how we're placed into colleges. Could you elaborate on this process? Good question. Excuse me. So the process is, think about the sorting hat in Harry Potter. We actually, in my office, are responsible for the residential college assignments. So every May, once we have the class more or less set, we will put together 14 diverse microcosms of the Yale community. We are, controlling for things like background, geography, academic interest, first name. We don't want all 12 Pauls in the freshman class to be put in one of the 14 colleges. And our goal in the month of May is to take, as I described before, the 1,550 first years and divide them up into 14 diverse microcosms of the Yale community. You then hear in early June which residential college you are placed in. And that is your college for your first year and hopefully for 4 years. Now you can transfer out of your college if you so choose, although few students do. But you get a college the summer, in June before your first year, and then you have 2 months to meet your roommates, to learn more about the traditions of the college, to meet the faculty in the college, and go from there. It is a little bit different. Some places will do their housing and their college assignments after their first year. But at Yale, we really feel like the value of these colleges is that they're all diverse, and that we need to, do that at the start of your first year. We really want this community to be yours from day one. We want it to be there for you for your first year. We want you to get to know the other students that you're going to be eating in the dining halls with for 4 years. We want you to get to know the other faculty there. And these colleges are so critical to the undergraduate experience. And that's why we are so thoughtfully constructing them through the month of May. And it's sort of like the sorting hat in Harry Potter. Essentially, we are putting the sorting hat on the applications of all these students and then putting them together in these different communities. Ashley asks, what's your favorite part about being a dean? Talking to all of you. Is that a good answer? I do love talking to students about college and the moments where you can feel excited about college. And I understand that this process is not always exciting. I understand that this process can be challenging. It can be nerve-wracking. But the excitement that people feel when they are realizing their hard work and seeing these opportunities unfold before them is just a truly remarkable thing. I will also say that another great part of my job is feeling like you have an opportunity to change the composition of Yale for the foreseeable future. In the course of my 7 years as dean, the profile of the first year class has changed. It's grown. It's become more socioeconomically diverse. We've got more students from more backgrounds and more high schools than ever before. And those differences I was talking to you about between current Yale and my undergraduate experience 17 years ago, those are important to me. And the ability to craft that class and be responsible for that is remarkable. One of the things I love about Yale is this combination of tradition and innovation. There's this incredible, Yale has been around since 1701. It's 319 years old. It is older than the United States of America. And there is this just remarkable opportunity to make a difference and to see students take the traditions that we love at Yale and make them new again and improve on them. And that innovation that we see at Yale, the constant push to improve the Yale experience, comes from the students. And to be able to admit those students who are pushing that level of improvement is a truly honor, and it's an amazing part of my work. So I hope that's good. Any other questions out there? Several excited admitted students have asked how they can get involved working in the admissions office. Oh, great. I'm glad you're excited. There's lots of ways to get involved working in the admissions office. We employ hundreds of students through tour guides or recruitment coordinators. This is the group of students that you might be seeing on the Admitted Student Network right now, answering all of your questions, hopefully with gusto and good information. And we also have students who give interviews as seniors and give information sessions as seniors. We also pay students to go back to their home communities, particularly if you live outside of urban areas, and do school visits to talk to students about Yale and talk to students about our community and our affordability. That's called the Student Ambassador Program. We have like 300 students a year who do that. So there's lots of ways to get involved in the admissions office, and you will be seeing those opportunities when you get on campus through the Student Jobs Board. There's a lot, we post lots of different jobs, we hire lots of different students, and we would love to have you join the effort. Maybe next year You know, we are liking the admitted student network so much. We are thinking definitely of having it next year, even when we're all back in New Haven and we're having a traditional Bulldog Days, and you could be one of the students on the admitted student network answering questions for others. Jesse asks, can you remember a favorite class from your time at Yale? Ooh, this is hard. I mean, I know it's not quite the answer you're looking for, but I loved my senior essay. I loved working one-on-one with the faculty member. His name is Professor John Demos. He's retired, so he's no longer on the Yale faculty. I loved working with him one-on-one all year, my senior year, on my senior essay. The first semester was spent doing research. It was spent, I got money to travel to Rhode Island to look at some primary sources, and I was funded to do that. And I was just sort of taking a lot of the different research techniques I had learned in my seminars and previous history courses to bear and bring that to bear on the research. And then I spent the entire second semester writing this thesis. It was this incredible synthesis of everything I had been learning throughout the history major at that point. And I feel like that capstone was definitely the sort of single best intellectual and academic experience I had at Yale. Some other great courses that I took, though, I took Introduction to Psychology with our current president, Peter Salve, my first year. Peter was not the president at the time. He was a wildly popular faculty member, and he taught an amazing Intro to Psychology course that I took. I still feel like I take lessons from all the different principles in Intro to Psych in my daily work as an admissions officer and in relationship with lots of different people. So I love that class. President Salve no longer teaches, but I hope he will teach again someday. And I took a really interesting course my junior year on French history and the ages of the Revolution, where we actually we got to do our midterm and final in oral presentation mode, which I loved. If you can't tell already, I like talking. So this was a great opportunity to take midterms and finals in a very conversational oral setting, which I had never done before. And the entire 13-week semester was literally focused on like 20 years of French history. So we got into this incredible level of detail on the source material, and it was amazing. And there was actually some people who could take the midterm and final in oral in French, which I did not do because I took Spanish at Yale. How do you see the landscape of admissions changing or progressing? Whoa. I have to take another drink of water before that one. I mean, this is an amazing question. I would have had a different answer to this question a month ago. I think we're seeing huge shifts in the admissions landscape right now based on everything that's going on in the world. I think we're seeing more students thinking about the choices that they have to make, financing those choices, what type of community they want to be a part of. I think what really needs to happen, though, is that we need, as a profession, to change the type of questions we are asking of you. One of the reasons I love those short takes so much is that they elicit such a different type of personality than the standard common application or coalition application or Questbridge application questions. And I think the technology has completely changed, and the admissions questions that we ask has not harnessed any of that technology. So I'm interested in things like asynchronous interviewing. I'm interested in things like uploading different types of documents to showcase your work in a way that is different than the application question. And I really hope that this current time that we're living in forces colleges to think differently about how they're going to be asked, what type of questions we should be asking of all of you to better understand your strengths and what you can contribute to our community. What is your favorite place on campus? This is a great question. I have a lot of favorite places on campus. I obviously love the admissions office. And I love Hill House Avenue, the historic street that the admissions office is on. I walk this street every day. Mark Twain had famously said it was the most beautiful street in America at one point in the 19th century. And I love the historical nature of the place. I love the old campus. I love the energy of the old campus. I love the feel of the old campus. I love the giant quad of the old campus. I love Beinecke Library. I will admit that when I was on my tour of Yale as a junior in high school on a rainy February day, the architecture at Yale, by the way, looks fabulous in the rain. If you haven't seen it in the rain, it's the best campus architecture in the region you'll find anywhere. We walked into Beinecke Library and my jaw dropped. And that is the moment I think I realized I was applying to Yale, when I walked into that Beinecke Library. It's just an incredible resource, and it's just beautiful. And I think it is an incredible place to just spend time. And I did some research there as an undergraduate with some specific sources for a junior history seminar and my senior essay. You don't get to do the fancy reading room stuff up in that amazing space with all the marble. You're in the basement because they are watching their sources very closely, but it still was a tremendous experience. Several are asking, will canceling APs and IBs negatively accept your acceptances anyway? So this is a great question. I'm so glad you're asking it. And I encourage you to go to our website where we have specific information about how COVID-19 is impacting our admissions practices. But I can tell you right now that this is not going to negatively affect your acceptance in any way. We are still going to do final transcript reviews. I still would like your schools to send us your final transcripts. But we understand that what you are doing right now, you may have never done before in your life, this remote learning. We understand that schools are taking a very different approach to grading than they might have previously. And we understand that students are going to be sending us all to different things, and we'll be recognizing all of that and accepting any grades that your school can send us. And we will be completely understanding if students are not able to perform up to their academic best if they are not able to make this transition as seamlessly as they would. I still want the final transcripts. I'll be looking at this, but it's not going to be a very rigorous review. And if you are not able to take the IBs because they've been canceled, or the A levels or any other international exam, I completely understand. We would be able to, we're not going to get the results. So we won't be looking at those exam results, and we won't be able to review that. So we'll just look at the final transcript your school is able to send us. We'll be very understanding about how this difficult transition has impacted your learning, and we will most likely just be sort of stamping in and moving on. So don't worry about this. Focus on your family, focus on your health, focus on getting the most out of this online educational experience to prepare you for college, and do not worry about grades. Another question. Let's see, what is this? Is Yale leadership considering any changes to the fall semester or holding classes online? Yes, so this is a great question. I think, as you know, the current spring semester is being completed completely online, and it has been quite a rapid change to have professors and students make this change. This is not how we would prefer to continue delivering instruction in the coming year. For all the reasons I've talked about tonight with the residential colleges and the extracurricular activities, I think the university is as committed as we can be to being together in person in the fall. And we are currently considering several options for the 2020-2021 academic year, whether it's changes to the calendar, whether it is thinking about different types of academic sessions. And we are working very closely with public health officials to chart the best course of action moving forward. And we are obviously prioritizing the health of students and faculty and staff, but we are committed to maintaining the on-campus experience in the colleges and the cultural centers and the museums and the research laboratories that are out there. No decision has been made at this point, but we are considering a lot of different options. As soon as this decision is made, I'll obviously be communicating it with admitted students and families. I don't have any much more to share than that. I think you can rest assured that any decision that we make will be similar to those of our peers. So I think what my advice to you as you're making this decision between now and May 1st would be to sort of understand that Yale and our peers, Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, MIT, the rest of the Ivy League schools are all in the same boat considering different options. And any decision that Yale makes would probably be similar to one that some other institution makes. So I think you would be sort of thinking about that amount of uncertainty as a given no matter where you go next year, and try to think about where it is you want to spend the next 4 years, even if the fall semester looks different. I do think we are committed as best as we can while prioritizing health and safety to bring everyone together in the fall for an in-person academic experience. And I'm hoping, by the way, to write with more information to admitted students and parents about this very question sometime in the next week to 2 weeks, maybe the end of next week. because I understand it is a question that people have before they're making this final decision. I hope that was a helpful answer. All right, final question. I see that it's almost 10 o'clock. God, where has the time gone? I feel like we've only been here for like 10 minutes. My God, we're gonna have to talk to my team. I have to do this again. What is your favorite committee snack? It's a great question. Oh man, I love pretzels. But I also have to say that I have a real predilection for orange Doritos. And in the committee room, we have a grazing table of different snacks that we will eat as we are considering files. And I think you can be rest assured that when your file was being reviewed by this very husky dean of admissions, I was having some nice salty snacks as we were considering all of this. You need that snack food to get you through a lot of these deliberations and to get you through all the things that we're trying to consider. I think you need to think about that type of environment, whether it's through the residential college dining halls or the butteries. I want you to be thinking sort of loud and clear about the type of community and the type of snacking opportunities that you might have at college, because I do think Yale has the best food, and the butteries in each residential college are the best place to get snacks. Late night cheeseburgers for 50 cents in your colleges every night that you possibly can. All right, I think that's it. I know you all have other things to get to, and it's 10 o'clock for those of us here on the East Coast, maybe even later for those of you who are joining us from Europe, live from Europe, or earlier in the morning for those of you who are joining us from Asia. But I just wanted to thank you for this and just give you some final thoughts as you make this decision. Yale is an incredible place. There is no shortage of opportunities, and there is no single human being who can access all the opportunities that Yale has to offer in terms of research or courses or majors in their 4 short years at this institution. But the good news is, if you are considering Yale and another institution, you're probably looking at another institution of similar size and similar scope and similar opportunities. So your ability to access incredible opportunities in college is yes. The answer is yes. And given your success in high school, your ability to get good grades, your ability to get good test scores, your ability to do well in different extracurricular activities or job opportunities, that's all going to carry stuff over into college as well. I mean, I know I've seen your applications. But you should really be thinking about what type of difference you want to make and what type of people you want to be surrounded with when you are making that difference. And I think if you do the work over the next few weeks and research these institutions and talk to different students and talk to faculty and join us for these 30 Bulldog Days, you are going to get a great sense of what makes Yale so special. And you will get a sense of what makes Yale so different from some of the other peer institutions, some of the excellent institutions that you're also admitted to. And then you can say, is this the type of community that I want to join? Is this the type of community that I want to make a difference in? As I said in the admissions letter to all of you, this world is currently in incredible need for talented and accomplished and smart young people. And you are those young people. And together at Yale, we will build a better university, a better country, a better experience for everyone out of everything that's going on right now. And I truly believe that Yale is the place you want to be, the collaborative, thoughtful, high energy, down to earth place that you want to be to make the difference in your lives over the next 4 years and beyond. So please join us. And please, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. And I hope that if I cannot say hi to you at Bulldog Days this year, I will say hi to every single one of you at First Year Move In later this year. Thanks so much. You're amazing, and congratulations again. And I hope to talk to you all very soon. Good night.